Hello friends, welcome back to English Classes Online. My name is Benjamin. Today's video is on how to use sentence patterns in English. Learn 14 sentence patterns in English and how you can use them in meaningful English sentences. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Click on the bell icon as well so that whenever a new video is uploaded on this channel, you will be notified instantly. Let us dive into the lesson right away. First, let's look at the agenda for today's episode. Number 1, what is sentence pattern? 2, why is it important to learn the sentence patterns? 3, different sentence patterns in English and how to use them. Let's look at this one by one. What is sentence pattern? The word pattern means the repeated or regular way in which something happens or is done. Sentence patterns in English refer to the regular ways in which English sentences are formed. So we are dealing with the formation of sentences, how sentences are structured. Simply put, a sentence pattern refers to the arrangement of words in a sentence. And of course, you know that the sentence is the largest grammatical unit in English, and it is the grammatical unit with which we communicate our ideas. So learning the sentence patterns is really very important. In examining the English sentence patterns, we are looking at the units or elements that make up the English sentence and how these elements are combined to form different sentences. For instance, an English sentence can have 5 units known as elements of sentence. They are subject, which we represent with S, verb with V, object O, complement C, and adjunct A. And of course, you will understand that we have an acronym that is used to capture these 5 elements of sentence structure. So here we can actually see that these 5 elements of the sentence structure are captured in the acronym SVOCA, all right, SVOCA, SVOCA. S stands for subject, V for verb, O for object, C for complement, and A for adjunct. And we shall be looking at these elements of the sentence and how they are used to look at the different sentence patterns in English. So we are looking at how English sentences operate. English sentences operate using a similar pattern. You know, pattern is the repeated or regular way in which something happens or is done. You know, so we are looking at the regular way in which, you know, English sentences are structured. For example, the subject performs an action, the verb reports the action, the object receives the action reported by the verb, and so on. Now, the sentence pattern I have just described is known as SVOCA. pattern. That's a sentence structure that is known as SVO, subject verb complement. For example, let's look at the sentence Olu killed an elephant. That is the sentence we are looking at, and here we analyze the sentence as follows. Olu killed, well, let's wipe this, okay? Olu killed an elephant. Now, Olu is the subject, killed is the verb, and elephant is the object. Now, the subject is the doer of the action, and the verb is the reporting word, the word that expresses the action or reports the action. And then the object is the receiver of the action. So that is exactly one pattern, one sentence pattern. And this is just an example of what we mean by a sentence pattern. SVO, subject plus verb plus object. That's one of the sentence patterns we shall be looking at. But first, let's look at this very important question. Why is it important to learn sentence patterns? Learning and mastering common sentence patterns helps English learners to improve their speech and writing. By learning the common sentence patterns, you get to understand the way English sentences are usually structured. So it enables you to use correct sentences since you know how sentences are structured. Learning sentence patterns enables you to understand how sentences are formed or how sentences are structured. And when you learn and understand this, it enables you to use correct sentences since you already know the regular way in which sentences are usually formed. So it enables you to learn how to use correct sentences. Another thing it does is that it enables you to use a variety of sentences in communicating your ideas. Of course, learning or acquiring a language has to do with activating the language acquisition device, which is the innate ability to generate unlimited number of sentences, according to Noam Chomsky, a notable American grammatical theorist. You know, when you learn a language or when you acquire a language, what happens is that you internalize the principle, the linguistic principles, the laws that govern that language, which is what we call grammar. And it enables you to generate an unlimited number of sentences. So learning the sentence patterns is one of the ways of learning a language, because when you speak in sentences, and when you write in sentences. All right? I hope that makes sense. So it is really very important to learn, the various sentence patterns. Now, there are many different sentence patterns in English. There are not only 4 or 5 or 6, although we may look at some basic patterns, sentence patterns, but all the patterns, all the sentence patterns are all equally good, because we want to look at, the possibility of using a variety of sentences. It doesn't make sense to restrict yourself to just a few sentence patterns, because there are different situations that require the use of language. Some of them are simple situations, some of them are complex situations, and you need to understand the various sentence patterns so that you can communicate your ideas in all types of situations. So we are going to examine 14 different sentence patterns, and this will actually give you the massive opportunity to learn a variety of ways in which you can communicate your ideas meaningfully and grammatically. Now, let's look at the various patterns and the examples. Now, the first pattern here that we want to look at is the SV pattern, which is subject plus verb. That's number one. And the example we have here is Jesus wept. Is a very popular biblical quotation. Jesus wept. So when we analyze this, the subject here is Jesus and the verb here is wept. So we have the SV structure here. We can use this to generate similar sentences. We can say he wept. We can say she laughed. We can say they came. We can say I eat, I write, I play, the baby slept, or the baby cried. All these are possible sentences that are similar to this pattern. And when you learn a particular sentence pattern, it gives you the template that you can use in generating other sentences that have a similar structure. Then let's look at the second sentence pattern. It is called SVO, subject plus verb plus object. Now, I want at this point to take time and explain to you what these various letters stand for. I had earlier hinted on that, but I need to explain what each of them stands for. Now, this is subject. The subject is the doer of the action in a sentence. All right? So in this sentence, the doer of the action is Jesus. All right? Then the verb is the action word or the being word. When you study parts of speech or word classes, you define a verb as a word that indicates action or a state of being in a sentence. So a verb is called an action word or a being word. Then the object is the receiver of the action. And let's look at it in the light of this sentence. Jack slapped Judith. So when we analyze this, we break this sentence into its components, its grammatical units. So here, Jack is the subject, slapped is the verb, and Judith is the object. So here we can see that Jack is the doer of the action, is the one doing the slapping, and slapped is the verb, the word that reports the action taken by the subject. Then the object is the receiver of the action performed by the subject and reported by the verb. So Jack slapped Judith. This shows you what the object is all about. Then let's look at the complement. We are going to see an example with which I will explain the complement, but suffice it to say that the complement is a description of the subject. The complement is what completes the meaning of the subject. We are going to look at it. And then the adjunct is a word or group of words that, adds meaning to the verb or explains the action or gives extra information about the action. For example, if you say that Mary sang, then and you put a full stop, a number of questions can be raised. When did Mary sing? Where did Mary sing? How did Mary sing? And so on and so forth. All these questions are answered by using the adjunct. And here we have used one of the adjuncts here. Now let's analyze this sentence to see how the adjunct operates within the sentence structure. All right? So here, what we find is that Mary is the subject, sang is the verb, and beautifully is the adjunct. So you can see that an adjunct is always an adverb or an adverbial. An adverbial is a word or a phrase and sometimes a clause that, expresses an idea about place, about time, about manner, about purpose, and so on and so forth. And in most cases, gives extra information about the action reported in a sentence. For example, when we say Mary sang, singing is an action, and you will like to know where it took place. We can add that Mary sang at the assembly. At the assembly is an adjunct. And if you ask, how did Mary sing? We can say she sang beautifully. That is an adjunct of manner. If we say, when did Mary sing? We can say in the morning, all right? Or yesterday, if you like. So now we have seen 3 sentence patterns. Let's wipe our screen so we can go to the next page and look at other sentence patterns. Now, number 4, we have the SVC structure, the sentence pattern with the SVC structure. For example, Messi is a footballer. Messi is a footballer. All right, so here, when we analyze this sentence, we break it into its grammatical units, and this is what we have here. When we are doing this analysis, I expect you to take note of how to analyze a sentence in this grammatical manner. So Messi is the subject, all right? The verb is, and the footballer is the complement. So you can see that the complement always comes after a linking verb. A linking verb is any of the forms of the verb to be. From the verb to be, we have different forms, up to 8 of them, all right? Different forms. You have am. When you say I am is a form of be. Then when you say are, we are. When you say is a form of be. When we say was, that's also a form of be. Then if we say were, which is the plural form of was, all right? So if we say were, W-E-R-E, then if we say been, B-E-E-N, then if we say been, all right, this is been, please, B-E-I-N-G, please, just don't mind my writing. All right. So being. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of them. These are the various forms of, the verb to be. And these are all linking verbs. Of course, we have other linking verbs such as seem, appear, all right, and taste, and so on and so forth. Become. All these are, what we call the linking verbs. And whenever you have a linking verb, what comes after it is the complement. A complement is either a noun or an adjective. These are two word classes that can function as a complement. All right. So a noun or an adjective. For instance, you can say Messi is good. The word good is an adjective, or if we say Messi is kind, or if we say Messi is strong, these are adjectives that can tell us more about Messi. And if we say Messi is a footballer, this is also a complement that describes the subject Messi. So basically, a complement describes the subject or defines the subject or completes the meaning of the subject, because it is not complete when you say Messi is and then you put a dash, something is missing. What is going to complete it is a complement. Now, the next sentence pattern, which is number 5, is SVCA, subject, verb, complement, adjunct. For example, the match was interesting as usual. Again, the match is the subject, was is the verb, interesting is the complement. As I told you before, an adjective can be a complement. Then, as usual, is the adjunct. So you can see how we arrive at the SVCA. For want of time, we may not be going into detailed analysis of using our lines, but of course, by now, you should understand the natural boundaries. For instance, if we have to analyze it, we cut it here, and cut it here. Then, of course, we put this, all right, so that our analysis will be complete. We may not be drawing these vertical lines, but by now, when we see a subject, we can simply write S on top, and that will be quite sufficient. So the match is the subject here, was is the verb, interesting, complement, as usual, is adjunct, all right? So now the next pattern is SVCC, subject, verb, complement, complement. And again, here we see the subject is she, the verb is was, then the complement is worried, and another complement is about her son. Now here we see she was worried, she was worried. And there is another complement that will complete the meaning of this complement. So we call this the adjective complement. This is a complement that is a complement of the adjective, is different from different from the subject complement. Now, if we say she was worried and we put a full stop, then the question that naturally arises is worried about what? About her son. So this is a complement that adds to the meaning of the word worried. And worried is a past participle that functions as an adjective here. And of course, in our study of parts of speech or word classes, we have learned that an adverb or an adjunct is a word or group of words that describes or modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So you can see that this is an adverbial here that is modifying the adjective here, adding meaning to the adjective here. So that is why it is also called a complement here. All right. Now the seventh one is SVOC, subject verb object complement. So here we are going to look at a complement of the objects. All right. So here we are looking at the sentence, Mark writes articles every week. So here Mark is the subject, the doer of the action of writing. The verb is writes, then the object is articles, because the action of writing is performed on articles. Articles is the receiver of the action of writing performed by the subject Mark. Every week is an adjunct, is a complement, please. Is a complement here, although it will not be out of place if we also describe it as an adjunct, because every week is essentially an adjunct. But here we are looking at the object, because this is complete, adding to the meaning, completing the meaning of this particular object here. And so we describe it as object complement, because it is completing the meaning of the object here. Well, we can see here that the subject is Mark, writes is verb, object is articles, and the complement is every week. Well, if we look at it from another perspective, then we can say Mark writes articles, and if we put a full stop, a question will arise, when? And we can answer by saying every week. All right. Mark writes articles every week. So it is also a possibility that we can look at every week as an adjunct as well. All right. So this all belong to the realm of grammatical analysis. All right. Now let's go further to look at other patterns and see the possibilities of, various English sentence patterns that we can use. Then we look at number 8, and what we have here is SVOO, subject, verb, object, object. You may ask, why should we have two objects here? One is a direct object, the other is the indirect object. So here the subject is Henry, the doer of the action, and you can see a regular pattern. The subject always comes first in a declarative sentence. Of course, we have a variation if we use another sentence type, another structural type of sentence, such as in an interrogative sentence or an imperative sentence. Then we can begin to see a change in this structure. All right, so Henry is the subject, gave is the verb, his wife is an object, the indirect object, some money is the direct object. So here you can see that this is the direct object, which we denote with small d, and this is the indirect object, which we denote with I. So how do we differentiate between the direct and indirect objects? Now, if you are giving something to someone, of course, you will first pick the money that you are going to give. So what happens is that we look at the process. The direct object is the money, some money, because Henry will first pick the money and then stretch forth his hand and his wife receives it. So the wife is the indirect object because the action is first performed on the money before it is extended to the wife. Another way of identifying the indirect object is that the indirect object takes a preposition. So we can reconstruct this sentence by saying that Henry gave some money to his wife. You see, to his wife. So gave some money to his wife. So the one that takes that becomes the object of a preposition is usually the indirect object. Number 9, SVOOA, subject, verb, object, object, adjunct. All right, and the example is Dad bought me a bag yesterday. Dad is the subject, bought is the verb, me is the indirect object, a bag is the direct object, yesterday is the adjunct. An adjunct always answers the question when or where or how or for what purpose or to what extent. These are the various possibilities. All right, so SVOOA, that's another sentence pattern. Subject, verb, object, object, adjunct. And object, object here, we have indirect object and we have direct object before the adjunct. Then number 10, we have SVAA, subject, verb, adjunct, adjunct. She ran quickly into the house. The subject is she, the verb is ran, the adjunct is quickly, and another adjunct is into the house. Now you can notice that structurally, into the house is a prepositional phrase, and we have always noticed that a prepositional phrase is used either as an adjectival phrase or as an adverbial phrase. Here it is used as an adverbial phrase. All right. Quickly is an adverb of manner, and when we look at these two adjuncts, we discover that they complete the meaning of the verb of action here. So if we say she ran and we put a full stop, some questions will arise. How did she run? She ran quickly. Where did she run? Where did she run? Into the house. So how and where? These are the adjuncts, the questions that the adjuncts answer in this sentence. How and where. All right, so let's wipe this screen again, and then we look at other sentence patterns. At this point, I hope it is getting clearer to you how various sentence patterns can help us to communicate our ideas with greater clarity in English. Now, the next one, which is number 11, is VSVOA. Now, we see a change in pattern here because we are now dealing with an interrogative sentence. So the structure changes, and instead of beginning with a subject, it begins with a verb. When you are asking a question, the question always begins with a verb. And the example is this: do you brush your teeth every day? Do you brush your teeth every day? Now, the verb here is do, all right? You is the subject and brush is another verb. Of course, do is an auxiliary verb, a primary auxiliary verb, while brush is the main verb. Do you brush your teeth? Here becomes the object, the receiver of the action of brushing here. Then every day becomes the adjunct. So you can see the pattern here, the structure. VSVOA. That is the pattern we have in number 11. Number 12 is VSAA. VSAA. Did she sing well at the assembly? Did she sing well at the assembly? All right, so that is exactly a question, and the verb here is did, subject is she, sing is another verb, well is an adjunct. You can see that well is an adverb. Then another adjunct is at the assembly. Again, you can see that at the assembly is a prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase, you know, is what we call P plus NP, all right, gives us PP, that's prepositional phrase, because here at is a preposition while the assembly is the noun phrase. Now, of course, you can understand the structure, all right? So the assembly here is the NP, all right? So that is a prepositional phrase. So the structure is VSVAA. That is the pattern number 12. And then number 13 is ASVO. And here we have last night, Jane lost her sister. Last night here is the adjunct, an adjunct of time. When, if we say Jane lost her sister, the question is when did she lose her sister? Last night. That's an adjunct. Then Jane is the subject and lost is the verb. Her sister is, of course, the object. So we have ASVO, that's the structure. Number 14, ASVOA, and we have yesterday, Dan killed a snake in the field. The first adjunct here is yesterday, an adjunct of time. Dan is the subject, killed is the verb, a snake is the object, the receiver of the action. In the field is another adjunct, and that is the adjunct of place. So if we say Dan killed a snake, two questions will arise. When did Dan kill a snake? Yesterday, adjunct of time. Where did Dan kill a snake? In the field, adjunct of place. All right, so these are the various sentence patterns in English, and learning them, getting to understand how these various types of sentences are structured will improve our English grammar and enable us to communicate in a variety of sentences. So that is exactly how it has been in today's video. We have been looking at how to use sentence patterns in English, and we have been learning 14 sentence patterns in English, how they are structured, how they can be used to communicate our ideas in various ways. If you have enjoyed this video, like the video and share it with your friends and relations. If you have not subscribed to this channel, the time has come for you to subscribe to the channel. You can see that this channel is a channel where we discuss English language and simplify it. We show you exactly the structure of the English language, the rules, and the tricks and secrets and techniques, not only in terms of the structures, the grammatical structures, but also in various aspects of language proficiency. Whether you are talking about writing or the orals, phonetics and phonology, all these various aspects of, the use of English are taught effectively on this channel. So if you are interested in learning English, this channel is a place to always tune into. So it is important you subscribe to this channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. And it's also important you activate the notification system by clicking on the bell icon below, so that whenever a new video is uploaded on this channel, you will be notified instantly. I want to thank you for being part of today's video. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, any suggestions, leave them in the comments section below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye for now.